go over here.
So, first of all, I just have to say, I really want to hug you for saying that about medical malpractice.
Okay, thank you.
So,
I don't get that many hugs, so.
I do hear from a lot of physicians in the medical world how just about every decision they make, it ultimately comes down to liability of the patient and the institution. And when you see those studies that come out that say, it's maybe at most $200 billion in healthcare spending that you could possibly save, it makes me want to pull my hair out. So I have two questions for you. The first one says, okay, so that's the doctor side. That's doctors prescribing overutilization of care. But in terms of, let's say, the elderly, of patients that are maybe actually prescribing themselves too much care, let's say, utilization on the consumer side, do you think that right now the elderly people who are covered by Medigap, for example, are exposed to enough cost sharing? And do you think that maybe there should be more of that with perhaps catastrophic caps in those plans?
Sure. It's a great question. So the short answer is more cost sharing would help a bit. But if that's all we do, which is kind of at the heart of the consumer-driven approach, you're not doing very much. And the reason is, first, the evidence does suggest cost sharing matters. So from the RAND experiment on, most evidence suggests, or to how consumers have responded to prescription drug plans and the tiering, people respond to financial incentives. So there is an effect. The question is how much? And therein lies the problem, because if you accept fact one, that we're always going to provide catastrophic insurance, and therefore not very much cost sharing against high costs, and fact two, that the vast majority of total healthcare spending comes from a very small share of people with very high costs, then you're left with the conclusion that you don't get that much traction. So if you take Medicare beneficiaries, rank them by cost, top 25% of beneficiaries account for 85% of the cost. You're always going to be providing deep third-party insurance for those costs. The other 75% of beneficiaries, you can apply a lot of cost sharing, but they're only 15% of total spend, so you're not getting that much out of it. So then the question becomes, what is driving those high-cost cases? How much of it is on the patient side and how much is on the provider side? Ironically, there is a variety of evidence suggesting, not everyone, but something, I'm going to make up a number, a third of people, if forced to choose, will actually choose a less intense approach, even to end-of-life care, than if there's no decision-making at all. So I still do not see the argument against forcing, not what care is actually chosen, but forcing people to choose through an advance directive or living will. And so places like Gundersen Lutheran Hospital that do that upon admission actually have had pretty good experiences, in the sense of that's the ultimate consumer-driven approach, because you're saying, tell me what you want done to you now, so that we have some clue, rather than when it's too late to be asking you questions. So that can help a little bit, but I think fundamentally in those high-cost cases, predominantly what happens is what the provider is recommending. So the patient can have a little bit of effect, but it's not that much. Basically what the care that's provided is the doctor says, I think we should do X. And in almost all cases, that's what happens. Now, occasionally you'll have a very well-informed or aggressive patient that says, yeah, but I want to do X instead of Y, and maybe. But in the predominant number of cases, it's what the provider is recommending, which is why you have to get at why provider. If you're not getting at why the provider is recommending X instead of Y in those high-cost cases, you're not going to make that much progress.